Most people live their lives half asleep, trapped in routines, numbed by comfort, quietly settling for less than they're capable of. They move through their days as if there will always be more time, as if tomorrow is guaranteed. But here's the truth. The gap between who you are and who you could be is determined by the choices you make today. If you want to be the 1% who truly live, who achieve, who matter, you have to wake up now. Chapter 1. Wake up from the 99%. The first step to becoming the 1% is not learning new skills, not building wealth, not chasing success. It's opening your eyes. Because the biggest tragedy isn't failure. It's sleepwalking through life thinking you're awake. The 99% aren't bad people. They're your friends, your family, your neighbors. They're good, kind, hardworking in their own way. But they're also caught in a cycle that looks like living, yet feels like treading water. Wake up at the same time every day. Go to a job that drains them. Come home tired. Numb their minds with screens. Repeat for decades. And in the rare quiet moments, a whisper comes. Is this all there is? Comfort is the most seductive trap you will ever face. It tells you, you're doing fine. Don't stress yourself. You have enough. But comfort is a slow poison. It dulls ambition, steals courage, and convinces you that survival is the same as living. Comfort is what keeps the 99% exactly where they are. The truth is, most people don't fail because of obstacles. They fail because they never even start. They're waiting for the perfect time, the perfect opportunity, the perfect conditions. But the perfect moment never comes. Years pass. Dreams shrink. Potential is buried under the weight of routine. If you look closely, you'll see patterns in the 99% mindset. They avoid discomfort at all costs. They confuse busyness with progress. They spend more time consuming than creating. They complain about circumstances but rarely take action to change them. They live for the weekend, dreading the 5 days in between. This is not living. This is existing. And existence alone will never give you the life you imagine when you think about being in the top 1%. Waking up from this state means brutally facing the reality of where you are and who you've become. It means questioning everything you've accepted as normal. Why do you work where you work? Why do you spend your evenings the way you do? Why do you believe what you believe about success? Most importantly, are those choices yours, or were they given to you by someone else's expectations? The 1% are awake. They see the world differently. They see every hour as currency, every decision as a vote for the person they want to become. They are not afraid to be uncomfortable because they know discomfort is the gateway to growth. They don't fear standing out because they've realized blending in is a form of invisibility. Imagine your life as a road. Most people take the highway because everyone else is on it. It feels safe. But the highway only leads to the same destination for everyone. Mediocrity. The 1% take the side road. It's risky, less traveled, and often lonely, but it's the only road that leads somewhere extraordinary. If you want to wake up from the 99%, here's where you start. Stop lying to yourself about time. You don't have forever. Every day you delay is a day you'll never get back. Audit your comfort zones. Identify the places in your life where you've chosen easy over meaningful, and start changing them. Shift from consumer to creator. Spend less time watching and more time doing. Even small acts of creation move you forward. Replace "I can't" with "I will figure it out." The 1% don't wait until they know everything. They start and learn as they go. Cut the noise. Stop drowning in distractions. You can't wake up if your mind is always on autopilot. This awakening is not a one-time moment. It's a daily decision to stay conscious in a world that wants you to sleep. You will feel resistance from others, from your own habits, from your own fears. But remember this: every step you take away from the 99% brings you closer to the version of yourself you were meant to become. The world will try to lull you back into comfort. It will whisper, Don't work so hard. You've done enough. Just relax. And sometimes you will want to listen. But that is the voice of mediocrity calling you back to sleep. Ignore it. You're awake now, and once you truly wake up, you can never see life the same way again. Chapter 2. The Mindset of the Rare Few. Once you've woken up from the fog that keeps most people trapped, the next step is understanding how the 1% actually think. Because the difference between those who live extraordinary lives and those who don't isn't just talent, resources, or luck. It's the way they interpret the world, make decisions, and take action. The 1% do not play by the same mental rules as everyone else. They've trained themselves to see opportunities where others see problems, to focus when others are distracted, to act when others hesitate. And the most important thing to understand is that their mindset is not something they were born with. It's built, deliberately, relentlessly, and over years of conscious effort. The rare few live by certain mental principles that shape everything they do. Let's break them down. First, they think long-term while acting in the short term. Most people are trapped in immediate gratification, chasing whatever feels good right now, even if it steals from their future. The 1% are different. They have a vision that stretches years ahead, but they use today as the battlefield where they plant seeds for that future. They're not impulsive in their direction, but they are decisive in their daily actions. Second, they embrace responsibility, complete responsibility. Where the 99% might blame circumstances, luck, other people, or timing, the rare few operate from the belief that their life is entirely in their hands. Even when something happens that isn't their fault, they still take ownership of how they respond. This belief makes them powerful because it means they are never waiting for rescue. Third, they value learning over the illusion of knowing. The average person stops learning once they feel good enough at something. The 1% never stop. They read, they listen, they observe, they study their craft like a lifelong obsession. And they aren't afraid to admit they don't know something because to them, ignorance isn't a weakness. It's an opportunity to grow. Fourth, they act without perfect clarity. Most people delay action until they feel fully ready. The 1% understand that perfect clarity is a myth. They take calculated risks, gather feedback, adjust, and move again. They trust that progress comes from movement, not from waiting. Fifth, they are obsessed with value creation. The 99% often focus on what they can get. The rare few focus on what they can give, to the market, to people, to the world. They know that the more value they create, the more opportunities flow back to them. Sixth, they guard their mental environment fiercely. They're intentional about the people they surround themselves with, the information they consume, and the conversations they entertain. They know that mental input shapes mental output. Negativity, gossip, and mediocrity are treated like toxins. And finally, they operate with self-imposed standards that are higher than any external expectation. The 1% don't just meet deadlines. They beat them. They don't just aim for good enough. They aim for excellence. This isn't about perfectionism. It's about having pride in everything they touch, because they see every action as a reflection of who they are becoming. If you want to think like the 1%, here are some shifts to make immediately. Replace "what's the easiest way" with "what's the most effective way." Instead of asking, "what do I get from this?" ask, "what value can I bring?" Stop needing certainty before acting. Start moving and adjust as you go. Treat discomfort as proof you're growing, not a signal to stop. Commit to learning every day, even when it's inconvenient. The mindset of the rare few isn't built in comfort. It's forged in challenges, in moments of doubt, in the discipline of doing what others won't. Once you adopt even a fraction of their mental habits, the gap between you and the 99% will widen fast, not because you're chasing them, but because you've stepped into a different game entirely. This is the mental foundation that allows the 1% to build lives most people can't even imagine. But mindset alone isn't enough. The next step is understanding how wasted time kills potential and how to make sure it never kills yours. Chapter 3. Destroy your excuses. Excuses are the invisible chains that keep people locked exactly where they are. They don't make noise. They don't hurt physically, and that's what makes them so dangerous. You can live your whole life shackled by them and never realize it. The 99% survive on excuses. The 1% kill them without mercy. An excuse is simply a permission slip you give yourself to stay the same. It sounds rational. It feels justified. But underneath every excuse is fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of discomfort, fear of responsibility. And as long as you let fear dress itself up as logic, you will never move forward. Excuses come in endless forms. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I'm not ready yet. What if it doesn't work? I'll start next week. Every one of these is a softer way of saying, I'm not willing to do what it takes. The 1% have the same obstacles as everyone else. They get tired. They lack resources. They have setbacks. The difference is, they refuse to give those obstacles the power of becoming a permanent reason to stop. If something is important enough, they find a way, even if it's ugly, imperfect, or slow. The first step in destroying your excuses is recognizing that they are not facts. They are stories, and stories can be rewritten. I don't have the time is almost never about time. It's about priorities. I'm not ready is usually about wanting the comfort of certainty before acting, which is just procrastination in disguise. I can't often means I haven't tried long enough or hard enough to figure it out. The second step is to stop waiting for ideal conditions. Life will never hand you a clear path free of obstacles. There will always be something. Bills, family obligations, bad weather, bad timing. The rare few understand that starting under less than perfect conditions is not a disadvantage. It's training. If you can move forward when it's inconvenient, you will be unstoppable when it's easier. The third step is to replace every excuse with an action, no matter how small. I don't have time. Wake up 30 minutes earlier tomorrow and use it for your goal. I don't have money. Start with free resources and build from there. I don't know how. Commit to learning one new thing today. Every time you swap an excuse for action, you weaken the chain. The final step is accountability. Excuses thrive in secrecy. They grow in the dark corners of your mind where nobody can challenge them. When you tell someone your goal and commit publicly, you raise the cost of backing out. That pressure can become a powerful force for momentum. Destroying excuses is not about pretending obstacles don't exist. It's about refusing to let them decide your future. Every time you say, I can't because, you give away control. Every time you say, I will despite, you take it back. Here's the truth. The 1% are not born without fear, doubt, or struggle. They've simply built the habit of acting anyway. Once you stop allowing excuses to dictate your actions, you'll find that most limits were never real to begin with. They were self-imposed, waiting for you to break them. Motivation is overrated. It feels amazing when it's there. That rush of energy, that fire in your chest, that clarity that makes you believe nothing can stop you. But motivation is unreliable. It fades. It gets drowned by bad days, tired mornings, unexpected problems, and emotional storms. If your success depends on feeling motivated, you will always be inconsistent. The 1% understand this truth better than anyone. Discipline beats motivation every time. Motivation gets you started. Discipline keeps you going. Motivation is a spark. Discipline is the engine. If you want to build something great, a business, a skill, a healthy body, a better life, you need habits that work even when you don't feel like it. Think about it. How often have you promised yourself you'd start tomorrow only to wake up and feel different? You had the plan, the excitement, the intention, but the mood wasn't there, so you delayed. One day turned into a week into a month. This is how potential dies quietly, waiting for the right feeling that never lasts. Discipline is showing up no matter what your feelings are telling you. It's doing the thing you said you'd do long after the excitement has faded. It's the quiet, unglamorous consistency that separates the rare few from everyone else. Here's how the 1% build unshakable discipline. 1. They decide once, not every day. If you rely on willpower to make daily choices, you'll burn out. The 1% make a decision once. I train every morning. I write every day. I invest 10% of every paycheck. And that decision becomes non-negotiable. The question isn't if they'll do it, but how. 2. They build systems, not streaks. Motivation chases streaks, a chain of wins that feels good. But when that chain breaks, most people quit. Discipline builds systems that make success automatic. If you want to exercise daily, set your clothes out the night before. If you want to write, have a fixed time and place for it. Remove friction so action becomes the default. 3. They train their mind to ignore moods. Feelings are temporary. Discipline is the act of doing what matters regardless of your emotional weather. You don't need to feel inspired to follow through. In fact, the days you feel least like doing it are the most important, because those days build the muscle of self-command. 4. They start small and scale up. The 99% try to overhaul their life overnight, crash, and quit. The 1% start with habits so small they can't fail. 5 push-ups, 5 minutes of reading, a single paragraph of writing, and build from there. Success becomes inevitable when the habit is too small to resist but too consistent to ignore. 5. They create identity-based habits. Discipline sticks when it's tied to who you believe you are. Instead of saying, I need to run, say, I'm the kind of person who never misses a run. Identity drives behavior, and behavior reinforces identity. Discipline is not about being harsh or joyless. It's about freedom, the freedom that comes from knowing you can rely on yourself, no matter the circumstances. It's about removing the daily mental battle of should I or shouldn't I, and replacing it with, I do this because it's who I am. Motivation is like weather, unpredictable, sometimes sunny, sometimes stormy. Discipline is like climate, stable, consistent, shaping everything over the long term. Build discipline, and you no longer need to wait for the perfect conditions. You become the condition. The 1% don't show up because they always want to. They show up because they've made it a part of themselves. And once discipline becomes who you are, the results stop being occasional. They become inevitable. Chapter 5. Master your 24 hours. Every person on this planet, from the billionaire CEO to the struggling student, gets the same amount of time each day. 24 hours. The difference between the 1% and everyone else is not that they have more time, but that they treat their time as their most valuable and non-renewable asset. They don't spend time. They invest it. The 99% often say, I don't have time. What they really mean is, I've given my time away to things that don't matter enough. Time slips through their fingers in small, unnoticed leaks. An hour scrolling, a half hour complaining, 20 minutes here and there on things that add nothing to their future. And once it's gone forever. The 1% operate with a different level of awareness. They know that every hour is a brick, and the life they build depends on how they place each one. They guard their hours with the same seriousness most people reserve for guarding money. Here's how they master their 24 hours. They plan tomorrow before tomorrow starts. Successful people don't wake up wondering what to do. They end each day by setting clear priorities for the next. This prevents wasted mental energy in the morning and ensures the first hours are spent on what matters most. They focus on priorities, not busyness. The 99% confuse activity with achievement, filling their schedules to feel productive. The 1% measure productivity by progress toward meaningful goals. They know that doing 3 important things well beats doing 30 meaningless things fast. 3. They work in deep, focused blocks. Multitasking is a myth. The rare few know that switching between tasks destroys efficiency. They carve out uninterrupted blocks of time to work deeply on high-value tasks, eliminating distractions and entering a state of full engagement. 4. They protect their mornings. For many high achievers, the first few hours after waking are sacred. They avoid reactive tasks like checking email or scrolling social media. Instead, they use that time for strategic thinking, creation, or physical training, activities that compound over time. 5. They batch and delegate low-value tasks. The 1% know their highest value work and protect their time for it. Everything else, repetitive, administrative, or low impact, gets batched into specific windows or delegated entirely. 6. They schedule rest with intention. Time mastery isn't about working endlessly. It's about balance with purpose. The rare few rest strategically, knowing recovery fuels long-term performance. They treat sleep, exercise, and downtime as non-negotiable parts of their productivity system. 7. They track where their time really goes. Perception is often wrong. We think we know how we use our hours, but tracking reveals the truth. The 1% periodically audit their days, cutting the time-wasting habits that creep in unnoticed. Think of your 24 hours like a vault. Every morning, it's stocked with 1,440 minutes. Every choice you make is a withdrawal. You can spend those minutes on distractions and trivialities, or you can invest them into building skills, relationships, health, and wealth. The compound effect of your time investments will either make you or break you. Mastering your time is not about doing more. It's about doing what matters most, over and over, without letting the noise of the world pull you off course. When you begin to treat your hours as sacred, you start to live like the rare few who seem to accomplish more in a day than most do in a week. The truth is, the 1% don't have more hours. They just refuse to give theirs away carelessly. And once you start owning your 24 hours with that level of intention, you'll find that life begins to bend toward your goals, simply because you finally gave it no other choice. Chapter 6. Build skills that make you unstoppable. Time is your foundation. Discipline is your engine. But the real long-term advantage, the one that compounds over decades, is skill. Skills are the currency of the 1%. They are the invisible assets that make you valuable in any situation, in any economy, and in any stage of life. The 99% often stop learning after formal education. They master just enough to survive in their job, then coast. They rely on the same skill set year after year, never realizing that the world is moving forward while they're standing still. The rare few never stop sharpening their edge. They know that every skill they build multiplies their opportunities and increases their leverage. Think about it. If tomorrow you lost your job, your money, or your network, what would you have left? The answer is your skills. And if those skills are rare, valuable, and transferable, you are never truly starting from zero. Here's how the 1% approach skill building. 1. They choose skills that compound. Some skills give you a one-time boost. Others pay dividends for the rest of your life. The rare few focus on the latter. Skills like communication, sales, leadership, problem-solving, critical thinking, and adaptability. These aren't tied to a single industry. They're useful everywhere, and they stack with everything else you know. 2. They combine skills for exponential value. Being good at one thing is useful. Being good at 2 or 3 complementary things is game-changing. A decent writer who also understands marketing becomes far more valuable. A skilled engineer who can lead people becomes rare. The 1% intentionally stack skills to create unique combinations no one else has. 3. They embrace being bad at first. The average person avoids learning something new because they hate feeling incompetent. The rare few understand that awkward, frustrating beginner stages are the price of entry. They are willing to look foolish temporarily in exchange for long-term mastery. 4. They practice with intensity and purpose. It's not just about time spent, it's about the quality of that time. The 1% don't just do the reps. They practice deliberately, pushing themselves at the edge of their abilities, seeking feedback, and correcting mistakes fast. 5. They learn faster than the average person. High achievers read, listen, and study more, but they also apply faster. They turn information into action, extracting lessons from every attempt. Learning without applying is just collecting trivia. 6. They use skills to create, not just consume. Every skill becomes more valuable when it produces something: a product, a service, a piece of art, a solution. The rare few create output that can be seen, used, or sold, which in turn reinforces their reputation and opportunities. If you want to become unstoppable, start thinking of yourself as a lifelong apprentice. Your goal is to become a person who, year after year, is more capable, more versatile, and more dangerous in the best way possible. This doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen predictably if you commit to constant skill acquisition. Ask yourself, if I kept my current skill set exactly as it is for the next 10 years, where would that leave me? If the answer is exactly where I am now, that's your warning. The future belongs to those who are over-prepared, and skill is the purest form of preparation there is. The 1% don't just work harder, they work smarter, by making themselves impossible to ignore. And nothing makes you harder to replace, harder to compete with, and harder to stop than a portfolio of skills that make you valuable in any room you walk into. Chapter 7. Outwork, outlast, outperform. At a certain point, talent, intelligence, and even skill reach their limit. What separates the 1% from everyone else after that point is simple. They are willing to go further, longer, and harder than the competition. They outwork, outlast, and ultimately outperform anyone in their path. The 99% often think success is about working smarter instead of harder. The rare few know it's both. You work smart to aim your effort in the right direction, and you work hard to generate the momentum that makes your results impossible to ignore. They understand that there will always be someone smarter, someone with better connections, or someone who started earlier. But there should never be someone willing to work longer or with more intensity. Relentless effort isn't glamorous. It's the hours nobody sees, the grind that doesn't make social media, the uncelebrated repetitions. It's waking up early when you don't want to, staying late when you could go home, doing the uninteresting parts of the work that most people skip. This is the point where most give up, and it's where the 1% pull ahead. Here's how they do it. 1. They embrace the long game. Most people quit too soon. They want visible progress in weeks, and if they don't get it, they stop. The 1% treat progress like compound interest. Small gains, accumulated over years, turn into something massive. They are patient enough to let time work in their favor. 2. They maintain pace when others slow down. Momentum is everything. Most people sprint for a short period, then burn out. The rare few maintain a steady, sustainable rhythm that allows them to keep going long after others have dropped off. 3. They treat fatigue as a signal, not a stop sign. Exhaustion is not failure, it's proof you're pushing limits. The 1% listen to their bodies, recover intelligently, but never mistake tiredness for a reason to stop showing up. 4. They do the work especially when no one is watching. Public accountability is powerful, but self-accountability is stronger. They don't need an audience to perform. They keep their standards high regardless of who notices. 5. They turn adversity into endurance training. Setbacks, delays, and failures are inevitable. Most people see them as reasons to stop. The 1% see them as conditioning, mental and emotional weightlifting that makes them harder to break. Outworking others doesn't mean destroying your health or sacrificing everything else in life. It means being more consistent, more persistent, and more willing to push past the point where others stall. When you commit to outlasting everyone, you stop measuring your progress against the day's results. You measure it against your ability to still be standing when the dust settles. And in any competitive field, survival alone eliminates most of your competition. The truth is, life rewards those who keep showing up. It's not always the most talented who win, but the ones who refuse to stop swinging. If you are willing to stay in the fight longer than anyone else, eventually you will become the last one still swinging. And that is when you win. Not by chance, not by luck, but by sheer persistence. Turning pain into power. Every person who has ever achieved something extraordinary has a history of pain behind them. Moments that tested them, broke them down, and forced them to rebuild. The difference between the 1% and everyone else is not that they avoid pain, but that they use it. They turn every setback, every failure, and every piece of criticism into fuel. The 99% often see pain as a signal to stop. When life hits them hard, they retreat, lick their wounds, and wait for circumstances to become kinder. The rare few know that pain is not just part of the journey, it is the journey. It's the pressure that forges resilience, the friction that sharpens skill, the resistance that builds strength. Pain is a teacher that refuses to let you stay the same. Failure strips away illusions and exposes what's real. Criticism forces you to confront weaknesses you might otherwise ignore. Setbacks train your endurance in ways comfort never could. The 1% don't just endure these moments, they actively mine them for lessons. Here's how they turn pain into power. 1. They separate the event from the story. Something bad happens. A deal falls through, a project fails, a relationship ends. Most people instantly attach a story. I'm not good enough. This always happens to me. I'm cursed. The 1% strip away the drama and look at the facts. What happened? Why did it happen? What can I control next? This shift turns pain into data, and data can be used to improve. 2. They turn criticism into a sharpening tool. Criticism stings, especially when it's public or harsh. Most avoid it or get defensive. The rare few ask, is there truth here? Even if it's poorly delivered, can I use it? They don't let tone blind them to value. 3. They view failure as iteration, not identity. A failure is an event, not a definition. The 1% treat it like a prototype that didn't work, something to adjust, not a verdict on their worth. This is why they recover faster and keep moving. 4. They channel emotional energy into action. Pain produces energy, frustration, anger, disappointment. Most people burn that energy on complaining or self-pity. The 1% redirect it into output. They work harder, train longer, create more, improve faster. 5. They use setbacks to build tolerance. When you've been knocked down enough times and still stood back up, you stop fearing the fall. Pain inoculates you against future fear because you've already proven to yourself you can survive and adapt. One of the hardest truths to accept is that the path to greatness is paved with discomfort. You will fail. People will doubt you. Things will not go to plan. But these are not signs that you should quit. They're proof that you are on the edge of growth. The 1% live by this unspoken rule. If it hurts, pay attention. Pain points to what matters, to what needs fixing, to where you have room to grow. When you learn to lean into it instead of away from it, you stop being afraid of the challenges ahead. You start seeking them, knowing each one will make you stronger. Turn pain into power, and nothing can truly defeat you. Life can knock you down, but it can't keep you there, because you've learned how to rise, each time a little stronger, a little sharper, a little closer to the person you were meant to be. The circle that shapes you. No matter how disciplined, skilled, or determined you are, the people around you will either accelerate your growth or quietly drain your potential. You can't outrun the influence of your environment forever. The truth is simple. You rise or fall to the level of your circle. The 99% often stay in circles that feel comfortable. People who validate their excuses, share their limitations, and reinforce the idea that this is just how life is. These relationships may be safe, but they are rarely challenging. And without challenge, there is no growth. The 1% are intentional about who they let close. They understand that proximity is power. If you spend enough time with high-performing, forward-thinking, ambitious people, their mindset will become yours, not through force, but through constant exposure to higher standards. Here's how the rare few shape their circle. 1. They audit their relationships without guilt. The 1% regularly evaluate the effect people have on their life. Do they inspire you? Do they push you to be better? Or do they keep you stuck? They don't cling to relationships that consistently pull them backward, no matter how long they've known someone. 2. They seek out rooms where they are the least experienced. Average minds avoid being the beginner. The rare few crave it. They want to be around people who outthink, outwork, and outperform them, because it forces them to level up just to keep pace. 3. They value truth over comfort. Friends who tell you only what you want to hear keep you comfortable but stagnant. The 1% surround themselves with people who will challenge their thinking, point out blind spots, and hold them accountable, even when it's uncomfortable. 4. They align values before aligning goals. It's not enough to be around successful people. You need to be around the right kind of successful people. The rare few choose peers whose character, integrity, and values match the life they want to build. 5. They contribute as much as they take. Great circles aren't about using others for advantage. They're about mutual growth. The 1% bring value, ideas, and energy to their relationships, ensuring it's an exchange, not a one-way drain. The wrong circle will normalize mediocrity, and mediocrity is contagious. The right circle will normalize excellence, and excellence is just as contagious. The difference is in what you choose to breathe in every day. This doesn't mean cutting off everyone from your past or abandoning those you care about. It means being conscious of who you allow to shape your thinking, habits, and vision. Some relationships belong close, others at a distance, and some need to end entirely. Your circle is a mirror. If you want to know where you're headed, look at the people you spend the most time with. If they're living at a level you aspire to reach, you're on the right track. If not, it's time to make changes, because you will never consistently outperform the environment you choose to live in. Surround yourself with people who make you feel like your current best isn't enough, and you'll find that your true best is far beyond what you ever imagined. Reaching the 1% is not about a moment, a single victory, or even a string of achievements. It's about crossing an invisible line in your mind where excellence stops being something you chase and becomes something you are. Once you step into that space, there is no going back, because mediocrity no longer feels like home. The majority live life as a series of short sprints, bursts of effort followed by long stretches of drift. The 1% live life as a state of being. Excellence is not something they turn on and off. It's the default setting. It shapes how they speak, how they work, how they rest, how they handle setbacks, and how they treat others. Living as the 1% means you've stopped negotiating with yourself about whether or not you'll give your best today. It's already decided. You show up because that's who you are now. You train harder not because you have to, but because it feels unnatural to do less. You learn every day not because someone is watching, but because curiosity and growth have become part of your DNA. This transformation happens in stages. 1. From trying to becoming. At first, you have to push yourself into discipline, into focus, into high standards, but eventually it stops feeling forced. You don't try to be committed, you are committed. You don't try to lead, you naturally lead because you've trained yourself to think and act that way. 2. From external fuel to internal fire. In the early days, you might rely on motivational videos, quotes, or even the energy of others to keep going. But the 1% develop an internal engine. Their drive is self-generated. No weather, no mood, no obstacle can kill it. 3. From temporary wins to permanent identity. Many people hit a goal and then relax back into old habits. The 1% hit a goal and use it as a launch pad. The win doesn't mark the end. It marks the baseline for the next level. Living as the 1% also means living with higher responsibility. You are no longer free to hide behind excuses or blame. You hold yourself to your own word, even when no one else will know if you fall short. You make choices based not on comfort, but on alignment with your long-term vision. You will notice that people treat you differently. Some will admire you, others will resent you. Some will try to follow your example, others will try to pull you back to their level. Neither matters. You are no longer living for the crowd, you're living for the standard you've set for yourself. The real power of living as the 1% is not just in what you achieve, but in the freedom it gives you. Freedom from regret. Freedom from the weight of what if. Freedom from the constant mental battle of deciding whether to give your all. The decision is made. Every day is a chance to honor it. From here forward, excellence is not something you pursue when life is smooth. It's how you respond when life is rough. It's in your preparation, your patience, your persistence, and your ability to push past the limits that once defined you. And once you live this way long enough, you will find something extraordinary. You've become someone other people look to as proof that it's possible. You've become the living example of the very thing you once only dreamed about. That is the moment you'll know. You are not trying to be the 1%. You are the 1%, and you will never, ever look back.